I hit send, and he responds within 2 seconds.
He's looking at it
in Europe. What's going on with this?
It has like a lag to get over to Europe.
Well, I mean, what the hell?
If you haven't noticed,
when I'm in Wisconsin, it takes me 10 minutes.
We're live, and Craig Ludwig is back in studio, and he can't believe that there's instantaneous conversation between somebody in Europe and Dallas. But here we are. That's what you get at the DLS Stars Show. We are beginning a special summer series called The Other 31 today, and I couldn't be happier who our guest is. Let's find out next. Let's do it live. And it is Wednesday, July the 30th. This is the DLS Stars podcast. And boy, if you could hear us talking off the air, trying to explain special relativity and physics to Luds as it pertains to text messages. Man, what a way to start our Wednesday show. Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, our producer Elijah Smith, I'm Owen Newkirk. Before we get to our guests and start our new series, quick reminder that we are still in the middle of the $36 DLLS Diehard Training Camp Special. Cowboys out in Oxnard. You can get the regular DLS Diehard package for just $36 for your first year. That's a huge discount off the annual savings. And look at what Luds is wearing. Scan the QR code, go to alldls.com/intro, and you can pick the Dallas collection as your free t-shirt. Luds wearing his brand new Dallas collection, Dallas versus all y'all DLS shirt. There's the new collection drop that's been out for a couple weeks now. Luds, I think you made the right choice. That's a sharp-looking shirt.
Yeah. You know, you guys couldn't wear it like this.
Not a chance.
No.
All right. Let's
welcome in. The horns would be
in.
wrapped around your back somewhere. You wouldn't even be able to see them all.
Well, especially if I wore one that size. Looked like I was a superhero or something. All right. Luds is a superhero. He can actually fill that size of a shirt.
It's a villain.
Something that we came up with because we are definitely in the dog days of the NHL offseason where nothing's happening. Although there is actually news today about Winnipeg avoiding arbitration with Dylan Samberg and surprisingly signing him to a 3-year deal at nearly the $6 million he asked for in the arbitration case. Remember, the team, Winnipeg, I think it was $2 million.
Yep.
5.75 for 3 years. So only one RFA with arbitration scheduled left. It's Nicholas Robertson. We did a whole segment on why he could potentially be good for the Stars. But as you can see, very little going on usually at this point of the year. So we thought we would bring on guests from every single NHL team of the other 31. The other 31 is what we're calling it. And we start today, and I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to welcome one of my very good friends in hockey from the Washington Capitals. That's right. He's the now, long-time Caps radio play-by-play announcer.
Easy.
Hey, we've known each other. Are you ready for this? We haven't done a AHL broadcaster summer golf and poker trip for like 15 years.
I know. That's a poverty. I don't know how it happens. The only thing that's more annoying to me, Owen, is that you stay the same age and I keep getting older. So I don't know
that's
how
not
that
true
happens.
At all.
I used to have hair. I don't know where it all went sideways for me, but it is great to see you and Sam and Luds and all that. Very excited to. I guess if I'm the first one, it's only going to get better from here. So we'll do the best we can.
Well, we have a couple guys that cover the Calgary Flames. Matt Rose from Sportsnet 960, The Fan in Calgary, and Eric Francis, who is their senior columnist for Sportsnet that writes about the Flames. They're coming on tomorrow. So, Johnny, you're either going to set the bar insanely high and they will never be able to live up with it, or as you suggested, maybe a walkover as a warm-up for the high jump.
I was going to say it's the first time for everything if I set the high bar for something. So see how it goes.
Well, you're taunting us right now.
I was
because
going to say the same thing.
You're
It's a
outside.
joke that he's standing outside. Right.
Said
I hope
it's
a
hot,
thunderstorm comes over his head here in the next 3 minutes.
If I was outside right now for this show, I would be dripping with sweat within like a minute or two.
Yeah.
It's miserable. It's like the
98.
surface of the sun. I don't believe that for a second.
It says.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
All right,
it's a little better here, but it's still rather warm. When they say that the DC was built on a swamp, they're not kidding. It literally is. So it just kind of wafts up to you every now and then. It's nice.
Is it more humid than Hershey in the summer?
Yes. Yeah,
Ugh.
I don't know why. It's a little further south. Hershey was kind of the thing with Hershey was that you're out in kind of the middle of the field there, so. Like there wasn't a lot of water around, and you think, okay, you're kind of baking in it. But then you get here, and there is, the Potomac and the Bay and all that, and for whatever reason, it just radiates humidity right up in your face around here. So that's why I'm elevated a little bit. I'm a little bit out of it, but yeah, you gotta make your point to get outside eventually.
Well, I'm not going to beat our viewers to death with
Thirsty
a
now.
ton of AHL references, but I remember being very glad that your house in Hershey had central air back when we used to hang out back then. I can't imagine it being worse in DC, but I'm sure it is. Okay, I'm going to let these guys ask questions too, I promise, but I'm going to start this one because you're my guest and we go way back. I want to dial back to January 27th, 2024. You guys were in Dallas, and I don't know if you remember this. This was the middle of 2 seasons ago. The 23-24 season. And you and I were having a conversation up in the visiting radio booth before that night's game. Stars ended up beating the Caps 5-4 in overtime, a Thomas Harley overtime winner at the AAC. But it happened after the Caps scored 2 goals in the final 2 minutes to take a 4-2 Stars lead and force overtime. And the first of those 2 goals was an Alex Ovechkin power play goal. Why am I bringing this up? Because going into that game, he had 43 games played and 8 goals, and he was struggling. And John, you and I had this conversation. He didn't look good. He didn't look like he was feeling it physically in the best of conditions. He wasn't scoring. And I said to you, boy, I don't know about, you of course covered Alex every single day. I said, it doesn't look like he's going to catch Gretzky.
How'd that work out for you, by the way?
Well, and that's my point, because he scored in that game and it felt like it set him off. He had a great finish to the regular season, and combining that with last year, 67 goals and 109 points in 101 games. And I am not saying that the Dallas Stars got Alex fired up to get over the record hump, but maybe they did. That was incredible.
There is no doubt that the game in Dallas in January 2024 was a big pivot point to where he ended up this past April, because it was not a good start to that season. And there was, I think, a little bit of doubt. We have learned in these parts, and this will be 15 years for me here, which I still can't believe.
Yeah.
But in 15 years, I have found out that you doubt Alex Ovechkin at your peril. The first year I got here, he had 35, which is a very nice season for most people. But from his standard, it was a little bit down from where he had been before. And there were even whispers then, oh, well, maybe he's, goal scorers don't do it forever. Brett Hull had 86 one year. And by the time, there's that regression, Gretzky did the same thing. There comes a point past the age of 30, you're like, is this going to continue or not? What has made him so remarkable, and that game at the AAC without a doubt spurred things on, because he came back from the break. That was the last game before the All-Star break. And when we came back from that, he was lights out the rest of the way. And by the time the season was over, we had a pretty good inkling that, okay, next year could be pretty special. He was unbelievable the first part of this season, night in and night out, up until November when we were in Utah, where he had 2 goals then. And I remember I was even talking in the third period and saying, it's only a matter of time before national media start following us around, because, oh, wait, what just happened there? He broke his leg. We didn't know. And he was like, oh, my God, now he's out 6 weeks. And now you're doubting it again a little bit just because of the amount of time that you have. And, of course, he found a way. And of course, he wasn't going to be denied. And that's been the hallmark of his career. But, oh, you're right. I mean, the game in Dallas that day, it was a terrible first half. It was the worst first half of his career. And North Texas turned it around, and he's still going. And now he's 3 away from 900 as we get into opening night.
Well, John, I'm not going to give you a 4-minute intro for this question like Owen does. I'm going to get right to it. Hey, when you bring up Ovechkin, I can't help but think about the new guy behind the bench, and to be able to get on that bench in Spencer Carberry and have a big personality like Ovechkin, and to deal with him and everybody else he does on that team. And again, obviously Coach of the Year and things like that. Can you take us inside the head coach there a little bit?
Absolutely. And Luds, I think, if you see a band that is, an up and coming band, and you saw them maybe a little bit early on before they hit it big, that's kind of the way I feel with Spencer Carberry, because I was around him a little bit 10 years ago when he was coaching in South Carolina and going to the final that year, and then watching him progress to Hershey, move on to Toronto, and really kind of maybe some of the polish and finishing touches to get him ready for an NHL head coaching job, and coaching Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and running the Toronto power play and being in that media market and in that white hot spotlight. He is the whole package. He is as advertised. He is as good a guy as you think he is when you see him in the interviews. He is thoughtful. He is kind. And he's also a hell of a hockey coach. And when you've got all of those things and the staff that he's assembled here with Mitch Love and Kirk Muller and all the way across the board, this is, Scotty Allen, this is a fun group of people, but they take their job incredibly seriously. They are very in tune to the modern athlete. They are great motivators, incredible hockey IQ. I know that when he won the Coach of the Year, he wanted to deflect everyone, and everyone has a role, no doubt. This is such an incredible group of coaches, not just Spencer, but to be able to come in 2 years. And this has been a rebuild on the fly going back to 2023 when the Caps were sellers at the deadline. They did not make the playoffs, and it seemed like a daunting task to, Peter Laviolette was here. It started okay, and it wasn't okay, and the team's getting older, and they're not going to make the playoffs. And that was when that plan was put in place. Now, we can talk about the players, and I'm sure we will, and what that's looked like. But the biggest piece, or certainly one of them, is as they emerge from the Ovechkin era and they move forward, and maybe this is it for them, it certainly could be, what happens next? And I think that's what's fascinating to me about training camp this year. Spencer Carberry now with 2 years under his belt and going into year 3, more experience at this level. This team has been headed in the right direction for the last couple of years and may even be a little ahead of schedule, given, where they were last year and the amount of wins. I don't know that that's a true indication of where they are. I think there's still work to be done here. But without a doubt, Spencer Carberry has had his fingerprints all over what has been an accelerated timeline to getting back to the very top of the NHL.
John, how did you see Carberry approach Ovechkin when he first came in? Because it reminds me a little bit about, someone coming in for Crosby, your younger coach. You have this franchise guy. He wasn't necessarily on that direct path to catch Gretzky like he was this year, but that was in the back of their minds already, that he had been starting to make, the waves of that. How did Carberry and his staff approach that and just handle that situation coming into the new team?
I think with a lot of respect. I think that was the first conversation that he had when he was named head coach, and, having a lineup that has him on the power play for 2 minutes, that has him on the top line. There were some things that, the power play, I think, was probably a good place to look at the fingerprints that he and Kirk Muller put forth, because the power play around here for a decade was, all right, these 5 guys are going to go out and they're going to be somewhere between 23 and 27% for the year. They're going to try and get the puck to number 8, and they're not going to be able to stop it. And if for some reason there's a rebound, either Oshie's going to be there, Kuznetsov's going to be there, and the power play is going to be fine. Well, then it stopped being fine, and it wasn't very good at all at the beginning of even this past season. But in Spencer's first season, almost legendarily terrible at the beginning, where they were in the in the single digits, and you're like, what has happened to the Washington power play? And it had to get more creative, and it had to have more wrinkles to it to be able to adapt. Every team in the league knows what the Caps are going to do, and it wasn't working anymore. And I think one of the many things that Spencer was able to do was get the power play going, and being able to change things, which for a guy who is the greatest goal scorer of all time, that's a message that you say you've got to deliver with a little bit of respect, right? So I think it was interesting to watch. Power play was pretty good. Last 3 quarters of the season last year, they were scoring a lot more than they had been the year before. They kind of saw a bit of that. Maybe it was after the Dallas game too. Maybe Dallas turned around the power play too. January 20, it could be, but it got better, and I think that communication and that relationship, and what a thing to walk into as a first-year coach, second year in the league, and at 895, and some of the hockey history we got to witness at the end of last season. It was just. It wasn't a Stanley Cup winning year, but somebody wins the cup every year. To see a record like that set right in front of you is something I'll never ever forget.
Yeah, let's not forget that he gets to go out there when there's no goalie in at the other end of the rink every time for a full 2 minutes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let's get into a lot more of that. And I want to bring up Ludz's favorite word, distractions, next here on DLS.
Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features is its ability to always float upright. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last, ensuring they can keep up with any adventure. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. Their coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So, gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off.
Did you ever get your Rugged Road cooler?
Never. I don't get my sunglasses, nothing. Why do you got to bring this up now?
I was just saying it would have been
Do you
good.
know
My first day back.
You only had your ISO cam for one day, and then Ludz jumped back in.
Nobody
Ludz, he
wants
had
to
his
see
own
that.
camera
I
yesterday.
never had my own
Yeah,
camera.
what a
It's probably,
joke. I'm
Probably,
not even talking, and I'm on the camera.
probably a good thing. Well, while we and Luds are on the camera here, let's talk about Empire Today. Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. They have flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals that focus on only flooring every single day. Why is Empire Today your best bet for a new floor? They live and breathe flooring, so they will be with you every step of the way. It makes it a whole different ball game or puck game.
Sure.
It's not a word.
Yeah.
Their flooring
You're
experts
doing
bring
great.
the showroom right to your home. Now Owen's on the camera too. You can pick the right flooring and colors for your space and see how it looks with your specific furniture. It's a super cool and easy way to do it to make sure that it fits in your home and doesn't look like my backgrounds when we do remote podcasts. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. You heard that right. That is a $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details.
Well done, Sam. Thank you, Luds. All right, we'll bring John back in. John, on our show, which is about a year old now, almost to the day. Actually, it's past a year, right?
No,
we started in August, so we got a month to go. Boy.
Doesn't seem more than 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's like dog years around here. Luds will rant against distractions. He does not like distractions in a dressing room. He doesn't like it anywhere near a team trying to be successful during an NHL season. What I want to know is how the heck did a team that barely made the playoffs in 24 nearly win the President's Trophy with a historic record-chasing season going on at the same time? You mentioned it earlier of what's next for the roster after Alex Ovechkin. I honestly thought going into last year that it was going to take Ovie retiring before the Caps could become a contender again, and yet that was not the case last year.
It was not, and watching how they did it, I think if you had asked me on opening night last year, could the Capitals be a playoff team, I would have said absolutely. If you would have asked me, are they going to win the Metropolitan Division, I would have said no. But they did. And the reason why I thought, there were a number of things that I think happened. First of all, the Caps brought in 7 new guys last year. It's been a much quieter offseason around here this year, but a lot of the heavy lifting of the retooling and the NASCAR pit crew thing where everything got changed out. And look, we've got 7 new guys. We've got Logan Thompson in goal. We've got Matt Roy on defense. You've got, a couple of guys who have even moved on, like a Taylor Radish, whatever. But you had a lot of different guys who were assimilated into this team, and it was flawless the way that they were. I think that was one of the bigger reasons that Spencer Carberry was deserving as coach of the year was, you had an entirely new team. You had, as you say, a potential distraction. It was not, but a potential distraction in a record chase of getting Alex the puck and trying to get him to 895, which, even at times, there were times, and Spencer would say it to us and say it publicly, that the guys were pressing to get him the puck a little bit, especially on the power play. And, I think that belief of getting off to a good start, I knew it was good early on. Dallas was here, I want to say the first week of the season, 10 days into the season. Beating Dallas is not something that Washington does very well, and they actually did. And, for that, to be able to beat the Stars, even if it was at home, which actually I think Dallas, this is for the Stars to play here. It seems like they win more here than they even do at home. Sorry,
there's nothing better than a fly screwing with you the whole time.
Live TV right here.
Hey, yeah, there you go. But you know what? It was a good start in October, and it really carried on to the belief at a time, by the way, where the Rangers were terrible, and the rest of the division, the Penguins are struggling and probably still will for a while. Carolina hadn't found their footing yet, so the door was open to be able to build up a bit of a lead. It still is mystifying to me, not that the Capitals won the division, because once I saw the body of work in 82 games, yeah, it's a good hockey team. But when you look back at the season itself, you say, okay, well, they had some help too. The Rangers, everything went wrong on Broadway. And the door to be able to move forward and gain that confidence was there. So I think we found now, and I would give you not just 895, but when he was chasing 800 a couple of years ago, his teammates rallied around it. I think, Luds, it wasn't as, it could be perceived as a distraction from the outside. I think it was actually the opposite. It was a galvanizing thing in the room. I remember when we were in Chicago, when he got to 800, and the celebration in the room, we were there for, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes. Usually the team's out pretty quick after the game. The media came in. There was a lot of long interviews. It was really cool. And everyone in the room was just so happy for him to be able to get to that and, to be able to witness that in person. And for those who took part in the goal and got the assists, things that, they certainly enjoyed. So, I think it was a really interesting season, and that it wasn't as flawless, I think, as it appeared. There was a time really in the second half before the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, this team stopped scoring goals. Ovechkin was just getting back from being out of the lineup with a broken leg, and they were really kind of having a little trouble finding their offensive wherewithal. They did. It got better, but I think it also showed that, this team is good, but they also do need, I think, find that next gear if they want to contend with even Dallas or Edmonton or Florida or, the teams that we saw that got into round 3 and into round 4. I think stylistically and in terms of speed, there's something the Caps would still kind of aspire to there.
I'm thinking about the makeup of this team, and again, I know the Ovechkin and all that kind of stuff, but I can never not think about Tom Wilson. And just a little bit, you've been there through this guy's evolution from being that one kind of a player to where he is now, the way that his game has evolved. Where do you put him in the importance of this group?
Pretty much at the top, I think, at this point. And I would say, obviously Alex has been here for going into 21 years and the goals and all of that, and has been the captain since 2010. But I will tell you right now, Tom Wilson, the day that Alex Ovechkin says he's done, the captain will be Tom Wilson, guaranteed. It's not even open for debate. And it's what he brings in the room. I've asked him this question before. he credits the guys who came before him, not just Alex, but Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie, the guys who built that culture here. This team in 2014 was in need of an oil change. And that's when Brian McClellan came in. That's when Barry Trotz came in. And even then, building from 2014 to 2018, they won a lot of games, couldn't get out of the second round until they did, then they won the whole thing. But prior to that, there were struggles coming out of the Rock the Red era, as we call it around here, the dawn of Ovechkin and first getting into the playoffs with Alex on the roster in 2008. They won a lot of games, but there wasn't a lot of playoff success. And back in 2012, 2013, into 2014, this team was starting to lose its way. And they came in and changed a lot of things. And that was just at the time that Tom Wilson was just getting here. And yes, started as a fourth-line guy, was never drafted as that, as a first-round guy. He was projected. I remember they were all said at the time, a Milan Lucic-type guy. I think that comparison is fine, but I think he's actually something different where he is that deterrent on the ice. He still will fight occasionally. It doesn't happen very often, but just his presence on the ice generally gets people's attention. And this year offensively for him, I think was the best he's ever had. And the leadership and molding some of the young guys, I think of a guy like Alexei Protas, who credits Tom with a lot of that locker room senior leadership and the year that he had, and going from 6 goals to 30. There's a lot of nurturing that goes on in that room. There's a lot of good guys in that room. Some of them have just got here. I mean, I mentioned the 7 guys, but all in all, I mean, when you look at this team as they move forward, Tom Wilson will be the captain of the Washington Capitals. There's not a doubt in my mind about that.
John, I'm sure this won't be the last Ovechkin question of the day, but I was just thinking, it fascinates me the other side of it. You mentioned a couple of the good passers that they've had: Nicholas Backstrom, John Carlson, even Dylan Strome, who was just an incredible pickup. I'm curious how you've seen those type of players develop with Ovechkin. Does it take a ton of work off the ice or off out of games? Does it take a ton of work talking in the video room? How do they develop into that, or is it just a natural thing where they know where he wants the puck and it just comes naturally?
It's funny because that's a whole gamut of players, right? I mean, Nick Backstrom to me is a Hall of Famer when he decides to hang it up. And I don't know if you saw this week, he's going to play in Sweden this year. He's not quite done playing, but done in the NHL. I certainly wish him the best. He was
After
the best of that
2
group.
years not playing.
Yes. Yeah, back at it, wants to give it another go and do it at home. So happy for that opportunity for him. Nicky was not the quickest skater, and Dylan Strome isn't either, but they both seem to have a sense of being able to get the puck where it needs to go for number 8 to do something with it. And, there have been a little bit of fluidity, we'll say, down the middle with this team. And certainly going back to last year where, at the beginning of last season, Evgeny Kuznetsov was still here, and Nick Backstrom was still on the roster on opening night. And now you've got Dylan Strome and you've got Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Strome carried the vast majority of the work. Dubois played with him a little bit. Chemistry is a funny thing. I mean, Dubois had an outstanding year and took a lot of D-zone assignments. I think Doobie would have gotten more time with him if it wasn't for a lot of the defensive work that he did for this team that I don't know that necessarily shows up. I mean, his offensive numbers were fine, career best in points, but I don't think that's where his true value was, because he was a guy that whenever the Caps play the Leafs, he's going to get a whole lot of Austin Matthews. He's going to get those top line assignments to be able to shut down the opposition, and he did it very well. But that's not necessarily Alex Ovechkin's role. So I think for the most part, I don't know if that might be something we see a little more of along the lines. If PLD doesn't have to carry as much of the defensive weight that he does among the forwards. But I think for Strome, I think it's been a great fit all along. Obviously, the points have been there. His point totals just keep going up and up every year that he's been here since coming from Chicago, which was a heist, really, as an RFA. I don't even know how. I still shake my head at how his path to come here, but we're certainly happy for it. So, I think you can probably put it in ink 8 and 17 together on opening night here again.
Let's get into a bit more. I want to ask him about P.L. Dubois in a second, because there's a real story behind this. Lots more with John Walton of the Washington Capitals here on the DLS Stars podcast.
Oh, yeah. Talk about Monarch Money. I was nervous. Monarch Money is...
Still?
No, it had a little... never mind. You got it. You got it. Finances can be messy and confusing, but Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. It's more than just your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center, giving you all of your accounts, investments, goals, and everything in one place, making it super simple. Start managing your finances to build the life you actually want, because without that clear picture, it can be very difficult, especially for busy lives. Monarch Money makes it super easy. Finance tool people actually love. You can join over 1 million households downloading the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. It has over 30,000 5-star reviews. You get it. It's awesome. Go get it. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code DLS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DLLS.
All right, let's talk about Shady Rays. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your sunglasses, your favorite pair, at the beach, on your rooftop car carrier, the gas station 3 states away, or maybe you just stepped on them or sat on them or dropped them on the driveway and they're ruined. Well, that's when I find Shady Rays, because it changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life, serious, good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. Here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now I can actually wear my sunglasses without fear, whether it's hiking, although not doing that in this weather, at concerts, on the boat, that's Ludz's favorite spot, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code DLLS35 down there at the bottom of the screen for 35% off polarized sunglasses. All right, let's get back, John, to talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois for a minute, because he had a good start to his career in Columbus, but he didn't want to be there. And asked out, and they obliged, because they, for not the first time, now Shinnikov wants out, they wanted a player to be there, or to want to be there. So he goes to Winnipeg, and it doesn't work out. He puts up points, but it's clearly not a great fit. Then the Jets have one of the biggest heists ever and trade him to the LA Kings. It's a disastrous fit for LA with Dubois. The Jets retool, and I don't think they win the President's Trophy this year without Gabe Vilardi and some of the other ads that they had because of that deal. And then he goes to Washington last year. And I remember at the time going, is this just going to be another stop along this train of showing like, well, if it didn't work here and it didn't work here and it didn't work here, maybe it's not the coaches and the teams, maybe it's the player. Why did it work so well for Dubois with the Caps?
There's probably multiple reasons for that. I think the first one was that Hockey Ops has for years here, and I think this is part of a culture thing that the Caps, I'm a little biased, but I think they're pretty good at. Even going back to 2018, a guy like Devontae Smith-Pelly had washed out in a couple of different places, and he comes here and becomes a hero. Brett Connolly did the same thing. Like, the Caps were littered with those guys in 2018, and they have consistently gone out and found guys that, for whatever reason, Dylan Strome is another one, where if it didn't work somewhere, they bring him here, they identify something and make it work. Rasmus Sandin had run his time in Toronto. He's just a power play guy. He can't play defense. You know who was one of the best, maybe the best two-way defender on this team last year? Rasmus Sandin. There were a lot of guys who've been identified like that. So when the Caps, and listen, all I knew was what I'd heard, right? I remember we were in LA the season before when he was playing there. And I remember looking at the depth chart that night, and I was mystified at why he was at 3C. I said, first thing out of my mouth to Ken Sabrin before he went on the air was, boy, the Kings centerman must be good if he's at 3C. Because that wasn't the reason. You don't give up what you got to put him at 3C. I think the Kings misused him, quite frankly, and it's a different regime there now. But I think there's a lot of things that went wrong there, and it wasn't just PLD and it didn't just fit or whatever. But in coming here, and this is another Spencer Carberry thing where he laid out very clearly. He's like, look, we don't care how many points you get. You're under no pressure to get 100 points here. We don't care about that. This is what you're going to be. We want you to chip in offensively, but we want you to be the guy that you go out and there, you're going to stop Austin Matthews. You're going to, go in and make sure that you are shutting down the other team's top line. And at the beginning of the year, there wasn't a lot of offense. He was as snake bit as anybody, where everything was raining in or falling in for Ovechkin and others in a very good start to the season. He was a little quieter in getting started, but really built it midseason, and there was never any panic about, oh gosh, we need more from Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I remember he scored a goal. We were in Montreal only once last year, which was truly a poverty. And and we're in there, and Pierre-Luc scores a goal, and he's talking with the local media afterward. And I won't forget the smile on his face, talking about the goal, but talking about how much he loved being here and his teammates. And finally, he felt like he had a place in the NHL that he could really call home. Washington is such a unique place for hockey because it's a huge market. It's a top 10 market. It's a big city like Dallas. But, there isn't maybe, I don't know that there's as much, I don't want to say pressure because everybody wants to win. But, if you're walking down the street, it's not like you're in Toronto, right? Where, Rasmus Sandin is going to get asked, and get stopped if he walks down the street. You're probably not going to get that as much here. And I think for a lot of guys, they embrace the city because of all that it is and all the cool things that are here. And you also have an environment where the organization, I think, is pretty sound, not just from a hockey standpoint, but from a human being standpoint. And I think when guys come in here, they feel that from a supportive fan base, and they feel it from inside the organization and inside the walls. And he's not the first guy to come in here and say, you know what, I want to be here long term. I mean, when TJ Oshie first came here, he wasn't happy about it. He liked being in St. Louis. He wanted to stay, and he immediately felt better, and he became, one of the greatest players in the last quarter century around here, and they don't win the cup without him in 18. So I think, that development of individual, not just the on ice, but the off ice stuff, I think the Caps have been pretty good at.
Earlier, we were talking about Ovechkin and power play and the spot, going. The office, all this other kind of stuff. Every power
I get
play
this occasionally.
Well, this has got nothing to do with Ovechkin. Every power play needs a quarterback. Does John Carlson, who I believe he's played every game there. I'm sure he's over 1,000 games by now. Is he going to finish a cap?
100%. Yeah. I would expect that. I think, the minutes he's logged, one of the things that the Caps had to do for last season was they had to get a better supporting cast. And by better, I mean minute eaters to be able to take some of the burden off of John at the age that he's at this point. He was the NHL's time on ice leader 2 years ago when the Caps crept in on the last day of the season and got the 8th seed. That's too much. At this point in his career, that's too much. And it was down, I want to say, more than 2 minutes a game last year. And, that's where getting a Matt Roy in from Los Angeles and getting a really nice year from Trevor Van Riemsdyk, too, who really thrived. Bringing in Jacob Chikrin, who can really make not only the offensive contribution, but will log some more time back there than maybe they were getting the year before. So I think all of those things pointing to, I mean, John has, made his entire career here. His wife's from here, from Chevy Chase. So I do not expect he will ever wear a different uniform. And it's funny because there's a lot of guys. I had Oshie's retirement, it's been a few weeks ago now, but Ryan Zimmerman was there from the Nationals. And I was talking to him for a while about, it's amazing. There aren't that many cities, I don't think they can say this, that have so many guys, prominent, big-time players, and Ryan Zimmerman is one of them for the Nationals, that never played anywhere else. I mean, the Caps had Nick Backstrom, never played anywhere else. Ovechkin, never played anywhere else. Carlson, won't play anywhere else. And just to be able to, and, he mentioned how much he liked being here. Ryan could have gone anywhere, but he stayed here and he wanted to be a part of things here and ended up winning a World Series here. So there's something to be said for the region And I think there was a camaraderie. I mean, when the Caps won in 18 and the Nats won in 19, there was a lot of really fun crossover that the Nats were incredibly supportive of in 18 and the Caps equally so. And in 19, and they came and celebrated at a Caps game, the entire team. It was madness. I think there's a lot to be said about this place, and I think it might not even just be hockey. I think a lot of guys get here and they never want to go anywhere.
John, I got one more quick question about John. Tell me about his personality. He just seems I've never seen him get his dander up. He's never lost his composure. It just seems like he's this calm, cool guy, and nothing really phases him.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe him. I think unflappable. I go back to Hershey with him. I kind of followed him along. I kind of like when Tom Wilson was drafted here. It was coming off my first year here. So I feel like I've seen these guys go from kids, essentially, when Johnny came into Hershey coming out of London in the OHL, and then Tommy coming in from Plymouth and doing what he's done here. And Wilson's another guy. He will never wear another uniform. I don't think he'll ever be anywhere else either. I think that the way that he conducts himself, he had to kind of jump into that role that was vacated by Mike Green. Being the number one guy on the power play for Alex Ovechkin is serious work, and being able to get the puck to him. And that was not his job at the beginning of his career. Mike Green handled a lot of that from the jump, but he has done it very well for a long time now, even longer than Greeny did. And is just such a smart hockey player. May not have, all of the jam that he had when he was younger, but I'll tell you what, he's so smart and so positionally sound that, more often than not, you're not going to beat John Carlson. And I think that, having his leadership on that back end, even though he's older and, he's well into the back nine, I think at this point, in terms of career, but what he's meant here over the course of his career, he's another guy that one of the all-time greats in this franchise's history.
All right, John, I got a two-parter. First one is actually for you guys. I'm going to ask you, Luds. Do you know the name of the Washington Capitals arena?
No, and I don't care.
Do you know the name of it?
Is it still the Capital One Arena?
John, is it still Capital One Arena?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know the answer, so I was curious if you
didn't
guys knew.
know the answer.
No, they change every year in this league, so I'm just
all.
curious.
I feel so much better now that I know.
You're good. I didn't know. No, John, my second part, I went to a few Stars Caps games. I went to school in Maryland, so right down the road, and I went to a few of those games. The arena is right downtown, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious for you, it's big in colleges to have that, right? To have that community right in your campus. How much of an effect do you think it has on that market that arena is right smack in the middle of the city?
I think it's huge for a number of reasons. I mean, it's funny, when growing up when they were playing in Landover, once I lived here, once I moved here, and you realize how far Landover is from the center of the city. I've heard guys, and Luds, I'm sure I've heard many a veteran in the broadcast booth and in and around that have said that DC was not a very popular spot for a long time in the league, and for large part because you never got into the city at all. You were out in Greenbelt and staying at the Greenbelt Marriott, and you were going to Landover, and then you were gone out of BWI. So it wasn't like you were walking by the White House. Not like now where you can go to Georgetown. A lot of teams stay in Georgetown for dinner and stay at the hotel there, and there's just so much to offer downtown. But from a historical perspective, it's almost by design has to be where it is now, because a lot of the fans, our offices are in Northern Virginia, we're in Arlington. A lot of the players live there. A lot of the fans, there's a lot of roots now in Virginia, but the deepest roots are in Maryland. So you are metro accessible from Maryland and DC and Virginia to be able to get to the games easily, which, much like Dallas, the traffic here is not a lot of fun. So that's helpful. But I think that it's vital. I mean, the area around it, it's funny. I'm not sure that there's an arena in the league that you could drive by potentially. If you're not looking in the right place, if you're from out of town, you might not see it because it doesn't stand out. It will now. They're in the midst of an $800 million renovation that I have only seen pictures of. I don't think I could access the arena now if I wanted to. They are redoing all the Caps dressing room is brand new. Everything on the event level is brand new. They will do the lower level next summer. They will do the rest of the building the summer after that. It's a 3-year project, and the renderings are amazing. And I don't think we'll be able to say that anymore. It will have a huge presence about it, and we're looking forward to that. But right now, you drive by, you might not even see. And the restaurants around and being able to get to it, it's great. I live in DC, so I mean, for me, I'm only about 15 minutes away at the end of the game, and it's terrific just to be able to buzz down and buzz back and get in and get out.
Boy, I don't get to do that here. It takes me forever. 90 minutes to get to a game sometimes for a trip that should be half an hour. But we're not going to complain about traffic because we're going to talk about Dallas and the Stars with John next here on the DLS Stars podcast. But first, right into the main camera here. Well, not main, but this one. Let's talk about being a DLLS diehard. Look at the screen right down there. $36 training camp offer for being a diehard. You're not going to get a better deal than that. We've done it a few times during the course of the year where they discount the regular annual subscription rate to just $36. It's by far the best deal that DLLS and All City offers, and it is a great way to get into that top level of DLLS access without having to pay full price for your first year. Plus, it gets you that free t-shirt. Now, it doesn't have to be the new Dallas collection, but it could be. This is the new t-shirt line that we just offered. I think it was 2 weeks ago it came out. Check out Luddy over there. He's got his new shirt on, the Dallas versus all y'all, and it does look sharp. I picked the Nolan Ryan giving the business to Robin Ventura shirt. There's also, of course, the barbecue shirt. I've seen Sam wearing that one. The creepy combination. It's a conglomerate of all the mascots.
If you give me that for free, I will wear it.
He's not going to give you that. Not a chance.
He watched the show. I want it.
That's the t-shirts. But, of course, we have all the other ones, too, right? The ones that we had, whether it's this one here, the Mike Madonna 16-bit one we had at the start of the year, the Finnish Mafia shirt that came out right before the playoffs, one of my absolute favorites. The jakeoettinger Otter shirt. There's the Wyatt Johnston 16-bit, the Mikko finisher. There's the Otter shirt. I think that one is really sharp. And, of course, I was wearing the captain the other day. Yes, we know he doesn't actually wear a visor, but it'd be weird if you had word marks right across his face like that. So all of those things. Plus, in addition to getting the writing that Sam and Sean do for the Stars and the other guys for the Mavericks, the Cowboys, the Rangers, there's also free discount on events, 20% off trip to, well, the next event is Vegas. Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Raiders at Allegiant Stadium, and you can go there with the DLS Cowboys crew. Scan that QR code. Sign up to be a diehard. All great things here at DLLS. All right. Last segment. It's gone by very fast for me.
We have to ask John first, who did the best ad reads throughout the show? I feel like that's an important question.
You said you were nervous, so it's got to be you.
Mine was pretty good.
My money's on Luds on that one.
Yes.
Smart.
Always go with
Luds. Through it 30 seconds or less.
Wait till you hear his Mando read
I get through a lot of things.
Whole body deodorant. He goes crazy
Listen,
with
with
Mando.
the flies that are flying around his head, he could use a stick of Mando.
He probably could, yeah.
I think it keeps flies away from the grundles and your forehead. Your balls, butt cracks, and grundles.
There's the drop. We learned that's part of the ad read, John. It is something else.
John, do you know what a grundle is?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
What if I said your what if I said your taint or your nacha or
you want the
nacho? How about nacho?
Scientific term?
How about taint?
The perineum.
You didn't sign up for this.
Didn't think it was going there. I got to admit.
Okay. It's in the read. Not that one word, but the grundle is in the read. So
yeah, you're gonna have to Google that one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's not some sort of filter on that one.
It's kind of that area. Just so you know, I'll just give it to you bluntly. It's just kind of between your balls and your butthole. That's that taint in that area there. So
I've done a lot of interviews. I've never had both of those words directed my way on the air. So that's a first. I appreciate that.
By a two-time Stanley Cup champion, nonetheless.
Two-time Cup winner.
Well, I'm just saying we've got the product that apparently keeps the flies away. So.
That's right.
Smart.
Your balls.
Anyway, there's your drop.
Let's talk about Dallas. What a segue. John is a huge fan of the Katy Trail when they come to town. I know he loves trying to get out there and running when they're
Katy
traveling
Trail
through.
Ice House. Respect.
Yep. The Stanley Cup was actually there with Seth Jones this past week. I think it was Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
He took it over to the ice house
I bet
quickly.
that's
So
fun.
imagine that spot. So question for you to start with is, oh boy, there's so many different ways. Let's talk about Mikko Rantanen from the outside perspective. And this is part of the whole genesis of this idea of the other 31, of having people come on, is to not just talk about their teams, but also the Stars from a different perspective, not just we're immersed in it every single day. What was the Mikko Rantanen deal to Dallas like for you watching from the Caps position?
I think it was an interesting perspective because keep in mind, inside the Metropolitan Division, when he first came to Carolina, it was, what? Okay. That seemed on the surface a little terrifying to have that in your division against a team that you were going to have to find a way to get by, and that seemed like quite the escalation. And when it didn't work there, and Stankoven ends up going the other way, Stankoven is going to be really good for them too. I think watching what he did in the playoffs, that was probably the best deal Carolina was going to make there. Having said that, watching Rantanen in the playoffs and watching the Stars, I didn't see a lot of the first two rounds, I confess, but I watched the whole third. And I thought with all four teams that made it to the conference final, and Dallas certainly included, I thought, okay, the Caps are good, but they still have work to do. I think Dallas, pound for pound, from the net out, the offense that seemingly, at least whenever I have seen Dallas, and I saw it for the most part in the playoffs, when it's going, it just feels effortless. And to get the big guy in there the way they did from Carolina, I think was a wonderful trade. I think multiple Executive of the Year awards that have gone Jim Nill's way, my goodness, all deserved. I think that they are so well structured. I really kind of felt like this might, and I not rubbing salt in anything, but I thought at the beginning of the series, this kind of feels like Dallas to me, and then it wasn't. And I thought that because Edmonton I like, but I thought when we were in Los Angeles in the second half of the year and watching that team defensively, and they strangled the Capitals that night. And I thought, you know what, if LA has home ice and they get Edmonton, and this is the way they play defense, and if they can shut down just those two guys, LA might be getting on to round two. And that's pretty much what was happening through the first two games, and then suddenly it wasn't. But I really felt like Dallas was right there. I still think they're right there. I think I love all my Minnesota guys, having grown up there. So the fact that Otter is from there and close friends with the Lindgren family here, that's a guy that you can root for, and a guy that whenever there's just some guys that when you look at, okay, this guy's starting tonight, he's like, this is going to be a rough one tonight with this guy in net. And I think he has that. I think he is one of the best young goalies in all the National Hockey League. I think he's going to be in Dallas a long time. And Dallas is still right there. I mean, I think when you're talking about Stanley Cup contenders, there's no question the Stars are still in that group.
You know, when players are on the road and everybody has off days, I mean, we did things differently than what they do today. I'm always curious about what you guys as broadcasters do on your off days. But I did hear that you, especially when you're in Florida, you like touring around malls or shopping malls or something like that. And yeah.
Uh-oh.
So I
He's got his
understand
spies everywhere.
You were in Sunrise, Florida at some mall one day, and you enjoyed telling some kind of a story about her feet got tangled up or something like that.
This was a fall situation. Is that?
Yeah,
what,
I think something like that.
Yeah,
I think Locker enjoyed it too.
Oh God, I should have known. So Locker, I'll say this about Locker. My biggest mistake that day, first of all, was following him anywhere because I call him Magellan because he has absolutely no clue where he's going. He's like, oh, no, it's just right through here. It's right through here. We're wandering on a parking lot. It's South Florida. You strip and sweat. It's like, Craig, do you know where we're going? And it's just, oh, my God, it's probably 10 years ago now. And I said, listen, the hotel's there. I'm going to start. And I turned and my foot hit and it was into a ravine. And the next thing I knew, my foot flipped out from under me and I looked like a beach whale laying down at the bottom of this ravine. And I looked up and I saw my partner, Ken Sabrin, and one Craig Laughlin staring down at me. And Craig stopped breathing for a moment because he was laughing so hard he couldn't find the strength. He wasn't there to help me. He was there to ridicule me. And he just got that Craig look where he was just like, and then he started breathing again and then laughed for, I think, the next 5 years. So, yeah, that was, oh, my God. That's the stories that we have between Joe and Craig and Ken and myself and Al Koken, Smoking Al, the legend. He's going to be 73 this year, and he's still touring the league and still getting it done. It's unbelievable. I'm still the kid in the group. I'm in here 15 years, and still everyone has been here longer than me. So they mean the world to me. They're all my older brothers, even when they're laughing at me.
I like this. I have hockey questions, but I like this route better. So let's continue this trend.
You want to talk about making a fool of ourselves? Because we're very good at
we
that
have
here.
Plenty of ammo already. I mean, if you just look at a picture of Owen Newkirk on his scooter in a suit with a bike helmet on, that's plenty of ammo already. But you knew him well before we did.
Oh, yes.
What do you got for us in terms of some
boy,
Owen
I didn't
Newkirk
expect this.
dirt?
Oh, boy. You know what? I mean, he's not a very good card player. I'll say that. We used to, one of the things we used to do, the AHL, I mean, you're doing 8 jobs and you're not making a lot of money doing it. And at some point in our division, we said, you know what, we should get everybody together and we should have a weekend where we sit around and play cards and play golf and whatever. And that started with, I think, like maybe 4 or 5 of us. And by the time that I left for Washington, I think we had like 30 people that came one time. And it
ended with a great story, John, of now part-time Hockey Night in Canada play-by-play guy John Bartlett coming flying down from Toronto, showing up in the middle of the night, and then sleeping in a tent in your backyard. And man, the stories. What a time.
See, he's a respectable broadcaster now. Like you see this gravitas that he brings. He was sleeping out in the tent in the backyard. I remember he brought this air conditioning unit and went out in the middle of the night, which I don't think worked well for him. And there's a thunderstorm that came through and it's blowing all over the place. And the one time he came down a couple times. One time he drove down from Toronto. He got to the poker game late. He got knocked out in 45 minutes and just was a spectator the rest of the evening after that.
And a commentator, and he was just going the whole time.
Yes.
And it was really funny.
He can bring it, yes. There was, you know what, it's funny because, you look back on those times and you're like, you want to get to the NHL and you want to do all of the things that we've done. And those times, I went back to Hershey the last 2 springs because they won the cup and, watching our prospects. And when you're not trying like heck to get to the NHL, you realize how much fun it is there. I was talking with John Carlson about that. Like, I want to get to the NHL. I don't think as much about, wanting to stay in Hershey. He's trying to get there. I'm trying to get there. But, we both really have a deep appreciation for, the Bears, the organization, the people, the fans in Central Pennsylvania. And it's nice because it's only 2 hours up the road from D.C., so it's still pretty easy to get up there. When George McPhee was the GM, almost every Sunday he would get the Caps would play at home on a Saturday night. He'd be in Hershey on Sunday, so he would just enjoy the ride up, and not a lot of traffic on Sundays around here, and go check it out. So yeah, I appreciated my time there very much. I had a great time there. Even when Owen came down, I still managed to have a pretty good time. So
horrible golf from most of the group.
Yes.
I still swear that the poker chips tilted toward the homeowner. For some reason, it always ended up in John's corner. And then, if you can imagine, anywhere from 5 to about a dozen play-by-play guys in the same room, there were not a lot of lulls in conversation.
You need some migraine relief.
No. There's not a lot of oxygen in that room. But, as far as the poker, Owen, you can't hide skill. Like it just naturally comes to the top in a situation like that. So,
we're almost out of time. We're going to go to a very brief overtime because I have a couple more things quickly for John before we let him go. So, if you are joining on our television platforms, thank you for tuning in this afternoon. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for overtime. Okay, so we don't have to get into all the funny inside jokes. Hershey was one of the, and I think still is. I haven't been there in a long time, probably about 15 years. But they were one of the Eastern Conference marquee franchises, not only because of the building, the organization, Keith Aucoin, Alexander, was it Giroux, used to absolutely
Alexander Giroux, yeah,
terrify us on the power play. John Carlson was younger. They had this, and I've talked to John about this since, they had this goalie run, which was ridiculous because they had Semyon Varlamov in Hershey when I was with the Albany River Rats. And then they had this kid named Michael Neuvert behind him. And I was like, man, you guys just have this pipeline. And John looked at me and said, we've got this kid in South Carolina with the Stingrays that's better than the other two. And he was Braden Holtby. So think about that run. Varlamov, Neuvert, Holtby. Now, we in Dallas got the tail end of Braden Holtby's career. I mean, nothing you don't know, because John, you got all of prime Holtby, but what a nice human being, just a class act. And when he was on, when his body wasn't betraying him with Dallas, he was so hard to beat. The problem is that when he was with the Stars, the number of days where his body cooperated were not as much as he would have liked. But what was Braden Holtby like to go through the prime of his career with him in the Caps?
He was great. I mean, he was just a guy that is even keel. We talked about it with John Carlson before, but just a very even guy. Didn't get too high, didn't get too low. He's the kind of guy that you want in between the pipes in a pressure situation. The best moment for him, probably in a Washington uniform. The Caps are down 3-2 in the series in the East Final to Tampa Bay. And they didn't score another goal again after Game 5 because he not only posted a shutout in Game 6, but did it again in Game 7. And that was, without a doubt, the best moment. But off ice, just a great guy to talk to. And it's nice. He's in the area here. He lives in McLean. So very nice to still have him around.
He had the save, right? Wasn't he?
It was the save,
against
yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Hey, last one for me. John, you had mentioned earlier respected commentators, and Owen just said class act. You had an opportunity with Doc Emmerich, to work with Doc, right?
Yeah.
Just button it up, summing him up.
The best to ever do it. One of the best people to ever do it. And even when I was in Hershey, and he was a huge mentor of mine, he loved coming through Hershey. And every time when he was working for the Devils, he would drive through and he would always stop in Hershey for the day. He would always come in and find me, even when I hadn't spent a day in the NHL, but he was always so supportive and helped get me in at NBC for a number of years when they had the contract and doing games there, doing playoff games there. Loved every bit of it. Truly one of the biggest influences in my career, really from the AHL all the way through, I'd say.
You got anything else for John?
No, all good.
Perfect.
Good.
The other part about Hershey was the press meal was fantastic. It was one of the best
Starchy.
in the East.
Yeah, it was great, but it was heavy. Like you had to be careful.
Well, we were younger back then, John. The metabolism was a little
you have to
easier.
really be careful now.
The Western Conference we almost never got to in the East because we were a bus league in the East, and the things were pretty close. And I didn't realize how good we had it until I moved to Texas, to the Texas Stars, and it was actually a good triangle with Houston and San Antonio and then Oklahoma City, 6 hours north. And then by my end of my second year in Texas, only Oklahoma City was left, and San Antonio. We lost Houston, and then it got even worse for them. But the food was such, and this was going back to John talking about us working in the minors and not necessarily making a whole lot. There were certain buildings you got excited for. There were others you avoided like the plague as far as eating their media meals. But that fifth floor restroom in Hershey always had a special joke with our little circle of poker buddies. We had a lot of fun teasing certain guys about how the starchiness handled their digestive system, which we teased Sam about because he has a very tiny bladder, and our old producer, John.
Yeah, no doubt. You had the plumbing would take a little bit of a beating sometimes from some other broadcasters of the visiting side. Not Owen, of course, but others.
No, we know who we're talking about. We're not going to expose him today, but John, we could do 2-3 hours without even catching our breath or whatever. I just really appreciate how generous you are with your time here in the off season. You fought off a fly like a pro. And if I had been sitting out there in the humidity that you're dealing with for an hour, I'd look like I just got out of the swimming pool. So kudos to you for not sweating buckets like I do. And seriously, such a pleasure to have you on. I never get to see you enough being in the other conference, but thank you so much. It was really, really fun to have you today.
Thanks, John.
Well,
Thanks, John.
Hope to see all you guys when we get through Dallas this year. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
There you go.
We'll get you a parting gift, stick a Mando for you. Coming your way.
John Walton from the Washington Capitals starting off our other 31. As we wrap it up today, just a reminder that our next day, and it will not necessarily be every day, although we're starting to fill up the days pretty fast with guests, we're going to focus on the Calgary Flames. We have Matt Rose from Sportsnet 960 The Fan and not the same part of the company, but Sportsnet in Calgary, senior columnist Eric Francis, who's one of the beat writers that covers the Flames. We will have them each on for about a half an hour tomorrow talking Flames. And then on Friday, it's Broadway Blue Shirts Day as we will talk about the New York Rangers just to finish off the first week. So big thank you to everybody. 2:00 again tomorrow is our start time, Central Time. I know it was a little earlier today. So for John Walton, my big friend from the Washington Capitals, for Craig Ludwig back in studio for a nice little cameo here the next couple of days, Sam, of course, the other known destroyer of plumbing, and of course for Elijah Smith, who probably is dying to get out of overtime. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Owen. We'll see you tomorrow here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.